Hello, farming family. What a joy to greet you today in a new video. Have you ever felt that slight disappointment when opening the nesting box and finding an egg much smaller than usual? It happened to me recently. My chickens looked happy, but the eggs looked like toys. It turns out that sometimes by wanting to pamper them with household scraps or certain treats, we end up affecting their production without realizing it. Today we are going to discover together those 12 foods that seem harmless, but that are shrinking your eggs and wearing out your birds. If you love your little hens as much as I do and want to see those nests full of large and strong eggs, stay until the end because this information is going to change the way you feed them. And if you like learning these little country secrets, don't forget to like the video right now. That way I'll know this content is very useful. Excess bread and white flour. I remember that some time ago a neighbor brought me bags full of stale bread for my chickens. I, thinking I was doing them a favor and saving money, gave it to them almost daily. The chickens would get happy and run toward me. But soon I noticed that the eggs started looking tiny, almost like a first-timer pullets, and the shells were very thin. What was happening was that the bread filled them up a lot, but it didn't provide the protein necessary to form a good-sized egg. It's as if we only ate cakes. We would feel full, but without real energy to work. My hens stopped eating their balanced feed because they were already satisfied with pure empty carbohydrates. I learned that excess flour makes the hen gain internal fat, especially around her reproductive system. This fat presses and doesn't allow the egg to develop to its maximum size before coming out. It was a hard lesson because I thought I was feeding them well when in reality I was inflating them without nourishing them. Now bread is only a very occasional treat, maybe once a week and in minimal pieces. By reducing this and returning to their base diet, in a few days the eggs recovered their normal and beautiful size. It's incredible how a small change in what we give them from the kitchen makes such a big difference in the nest. Question of the day. Have you ever noticed that your chickens lay smaller eggs after giving them a lot of food from your kitchen? Tell me about your experience in the comments. Excess corn during the heat. Many of us believe that corn is the quintessential food for chickens, and yes, they love it. I used to give them generous handfuls every afternoon, thinking they would sleep better that way. However, I started to notice that in the hottest months the eggs became smaller and the chickens looked very agitated, panting constantly. The problem is that corn is a source of pure energy that generates a lot of internal heat in the bird. When the hen's body is struggling to cool down due to the excess energy from the corn, it diverts its resources away from egg production. A body stressed by heat will never lay a large egg. It prefers to save energy to survive. Furthermore, corn lacks the amino acids that give volume to the egg white. If the hen only eats corn, she has nowhere to get the material to build a commercial or large-sized egg. It's like trying to build a large house having only bricks, but no cement. The work simply cannot be completed. Now I prefer to give them corn only at night in winter so they maintain their temperature. But in normal times I limit it a lot. I've learned to balance it with grains that have more protein. In the end, corn is a supplement, not the base, if what we want is quality and size in the daily harvest. Very salty food scraps. Sometimes we feel bad throwing away what was left from lunch, like that rice with stew or soup remains, and we end up in the pen giving it to the birds. I did it often until I realized that my chickens started drinking water like crazy and egg production became irregular. The eggs were not only small, but sometimes they wouldn't even lay. Salt is very dangerous for them because their kidneys are tiny and they don't process excess sodium like we do. When a hen consumes a lot of salt, she dehydrates internally. To form an egg, the hen needs a lot of water and fluid nutrients. If she is dehydrated, the egg will come out small and the bird will feel poorly. In addition, excess salt interferes with calcium absorption. If they don't absorb calcium, not only is the egg small, but the shell comes out so fragile that it breaks just by touching it. I felt very bad knowing that by not wasting food, I was affecting the health of my dear layers. Nowadays, if the food from the house has salt or seasonings, I prefer not to give it to them or wash it very well if possible. It's better to compost those remains than risk the size of the eggs and the life of the chickens. Since I eliminated salt from their extra diet, my hens look much more vivacious and the eggs have become large again. Citrus in large quantities. I have a lemon tree in the yard, and before I used to let the chickens peck at the fruits that fell to the ground. I thought the vitamin C would be wonderful for their defenses, but I started noticing that although they were healthy, the eggs were increasingly tiny and production started to drop drastically. Researching and talking with other breeders, I discovered that excess citric acid can be a problem. It turns out that it interferes directly with the hen's ability to absorb calcium from her diet. Calcium is not just for the shell, it is also vital for the reproductive system to function strongly and create good volume eggs. Even the taste of citrus can make them eat less of their main food, which is what they really need. It was curious to notice that as soon as I restricted access to the lemon area, the eggs started to recover their normal caliber. Sometimes what is healthy for us isn't so much for them in the same amounts. If you want to give them fruits, it's better to opt for watermelon, melon, or apple, which they love and don't affect egg size. Citrus, leave them for your lemonade and keep your chickens away from them. It's a small adjustment that your nest will thank you for, with excellent sized eggs every morning. Excess onion and garlic. I know many of us use garlic as a wonderful natural remedy, and I myself recommend it to deworm and boost defenses. But once I overdid it and started giving them chopped onion and garlic in their water and food every day, the eggs not only tasted a bit strange, but they looked reduced. The problem with the onion is that it contains compounds that in large quantities can cause a type of anemia in birds. A hen with fewer red blood cells doesn't have the same strength or nutrients in the blood to produce large eggs. They become birds that comply, but with the bare minimum, delivering small eggs because their body is struggling to stay healthy. Garlic is less aggressive, but in excess, it can also alter the intestinal flora if you're not careful. An irritated digestive system doesn't absorb nutrients well, and if there are no nutrients, there are no large eggs. It's all a balance that we must take care of with much love so as not to cross the line. My advice is to use garlic and onion as medicine, not as daily food. I now do it once a month for a few days. I have already seen that this way it works as a protective shield without affecting the size of the production. Remember that in the world of chickens, less is more when it comes to natural seasonings. Raw or poorly cooked legumes. Once I bought a sack of beans that were a bit old and I thought, well, the chickens will take care of them. I gave them to them raw, just as they came. To my surprise, the chickens not only started laying tiny eggs, but they looked dejected and with ruffled feathers. Raw legumes have something called anti-nutrients that block protein digestion. Imagine that the hen eats her quality food, but the raw beans don't let her body use that protein. The result is immediate. The egg size drops because there is no protein available to form the white. I got very scared because some started losing weight even though they ate a lot. That's when I learned that any legume, whether beans, lentils, or fava beans, must always be well cooked before offering them. By cooking them, those nutrient blockers disappear and they become a safe and nutritious food. Since that day, if I have legumes for them, I put them in the pot until they are very soft. It's a bit more work, but seeing those large and shiny eggs in the nest makes the effort worth it. Don't risk your bird's nutrition with raw grains that only harm them, chocolate and leftover sweets. It seemed crazy, but sometimes at children's parties there are pieces of cake or sweets with chocolate left over, and you think the chickens will like the sugar. I made the mistake of giving them some chocolate cake scraps once. Not only did I put their lives at risk, but production became a disaster for several days. The chocolate has a substance called theobromine that is highly toxic to birds and can cause cardiac arrest. But even if they don't die, excess sugar completely throws their metabolism out of control. A hen with a sugar spike stops consuming her essential minerals, which results in small and deformed eggs. It's sad to see how a bird that should be laying beautiful eggs ends up with digestive problems from a sweet it didn't need. Sugar doesn't contribute anything to egg size. On the contrary, it inflames its organism. They don't need processed treats to be happy. A handful of fresh grass does them much more good. Now I have a strict rule at home. No sweets or anything containing chocolate goes to the pen. My chickens are much more stable, and my customers and my family are happy with those large eggs that look like contest farm eggs. The health of their reproductive system depends on the purity of what they eat. Processed food scraps and fried foods. We have all had those days where a little bit of pizza, French fries, or fast food is left that no one wants anymore. I used to think that chickens, being omnivores, took advantage of everything. However, the trans fats and oils used in processed food are terrible for the creation of quality eggs. These fats accumulate in the hen's liver, causing something called fatty liver. A liver that doesn't function well cannot synthesize the good fats and proteins that go inside the egg. That's why the eggs start coming out small, with pale yolks and without that rich consistency that we like so much. I remember that my chickens became a bit slow and no longer jumped with the same joy. It was a subtle but constant change in the size of the eggs that gave me the red alert. I was giving them food that was slowly making them sick on the inside, taking away their ability to produce the best of themselves. Now, fried remains go straight to the trash or to another type of waste, but never to my birds. I prefer to give them fresh vegetables or natural vegetable peels that don't have added oils. You'll notice that when their diet is clean, the egg is not only larger, but it has a much more authentic flavor. Green or sprouted potato peels. In my kitchen, there is never a lack of potatoes, and before I used to throw all the peelings in the pen. One day the potatoes had been in the light for a long time and had green parts and sprouts. I gave them to the chickens without thinking, and besides some getting sick to their stomachs, the production of large eggs stopped dead. The green parts of the potato contain solanine, a toxin that in small doses affects the digestive system and in large ones can be fatal. Even if the hen doesn't show signs of serious poisoning, her body spends all its energy detoxifying instead of laying large eggs. The egg is the first thing sacrificed when the hen doesn't feel well. I learned that if I am going to give them potatoes, they must be well peeled, without anything green, and preferably cooked. Cooking helps the starch be easier to digest, preventing them from feeling heavy or inflamed. It's a detail that seems small, but it protects the productive capacity of our birds in an incredible way. Now I check every peel well before taking it to the pen. If I see something green or with sprouts, I prefer to discard it completely. Since I've taken care of this detail, my hens are always at 100% and the eggs maintain that large and constant size that I like to collect so much. Excess lettuce and vegetables with a lot of water. Sometimes, to give them a green diet, I would fill the feeder with a lot of lettuce. They love the crunch of the leaves, but I noticed that the eggs started coming out very small and with very watery whites. I wondered why if I was giving them something that seemed healthy and fresh. The detail is that lettuce, especially the iceberg type, is almost pure water and fiber without many nutrients. The hen fills her crop with these leaves and no longer has space for the concentrated feed that contains the protein and calcium. It's as if we filled ourselves with pure water before eating. We wouldn't have strength for anything. For an egg to be large, the hen needs a high nutritional density in every bite. If she spends her time eating vegetables with little nutrition, her body doesn't have the necessary bricks to build a good caliber egg. Small eggs are the signal that the hen is full, but not nourished. Now I give them darker and more nutritious vegetables like Swiss chard, spinach, or alfalfa. These have many more vitamins and allow the hen to maintain her production at the optimal size. The lettuce I leave only for very hot days as a small hydrator, but never as the base of her green diet. Apple and pear seeds in quantity. I like to give them fruits as a treat, and apples are one of their favorites. I used to throw them the whole apples or the cores with everything, including the seeds. One day I read that the seeds of these fruits contain small amounts of cyanide, and although one seed doesn't kill them, the cumulative effect is real. When the chicken system receives these small toxins, its metabolism gets stressed. A stressed metabolism prioritizes cleaning the blood over egg production. This results in eggs that come out early or that don't manage to develop completely in the oviduct, resulting in that small size we want to avoid. It was a very simple change to start removing the seeds before giving them the fruit. It takes me only 1 minute more, but it gives me the peace of mind that I am not giving them anything that harms them. They enjoy the fruit pulp just as happily, and I make sure that their body is free of toxins. Since I've been doing this, I've noticed that my birds are healthier and their laying cycles are much more regular. Those small details of cleanliness in their food are what separate an amateur breeder from one who really knows how to care for their production. Large eggs are the result of hens that don't have to fight against toxins, feed for other species. This is a mistake I made when I ran out of chicken feed and thought that rabbit or pig feed would work the same for a few days. After all, everything is grain, I thought. But it was a massive mistake. In less than a week, the eggs decreased their size by half, and the hens started pecking at each other. Each animal has different needs. The feed for laying hens is designed specifically with the exact levels of methionine and calcium they need to manufacture a large egg. The feed for other animals usually lacks these essential components, leaving the hen in a state of immediate nutritional deficiency. When the hen doesn't find what she needs in her food to form the egg, she starts taking it from her own body, from her bones and muscles. But this has a limit, and the first thing her organism does to protect itself is reduce the size of the egg so as not to spend so many resources. It's a survival mechanism that affects us directly in the harvest. I never replaced their special feed again. I learned that if you want large and constant eggs, I must give them the exact fuel for which they were designed. Since I respect their specific diet, the nests are always full of beautiful, large eggs ready to enjoy or sell. I hope these tips have opened your eyes as much as they did mine at the time. Raising chickens is a constant learning process, and every small egg is a way they tell us that something in their diet needs an adjustment. Remember that well-fed chickens are happy chickens and productive nests. If you like this video and it has served you to better understand your birds, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our farming tips. Your support means a lot to me and helps me keep sharing these experiences with all of you. A huge hug, lots of luck with your little hens, and see you in the next one. If this guide has transformed the way you see your bird's feeder, don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the secrets of raising that others prefer to ignore. Feed the future of your farm. The next treasure of rural wisdom will open very soon.